Well, hello, everyone. Just checking my mic here. Okay. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. I feel like I'm having one of those days. But thank you for coming to the show. Thank you, whether you were watching this or listening to this. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to take a part of this program that is a that is Hot Topics, which is produced by a Step Ahead Tutoring Services. Let me tell you what this show is about. So this is the show where we like to have that real talk. We like to have those open conversations about things that are in the back of our minds, things that are important to us, things that we think about pretty much on a daily basis. And, we tend to focus on certain arenas. We tend to focus on education. We tend to focus on entrepreneurship, mental health, physical health. So we tend to focus on those arenas. But whatever topic that you are taking in today, this is going to be a real conversation, an open conversation about that. So let's get into the topic of the show today. So I am excited about this show. I know I'm excited about every show, but today I'm particularly excited because while I have a brand new guest to the show, I, Gabrielle, am bringing back a topic. So I love it when I have repeat topics. So today is a repeat topic, but a brand new guest. So let me tell you what the topic is today. So the topic for today is empowering parents. So this is part two of this conversation, empowering parents. And this, we're all about education here at Separate Tutoring Services. So we are talking to the parents today, and we're going to give you guys some tips about what you can do to be better parents and stronger parents as well. And I have a guest with me who's going to help me out. Her name is Allison Maynard. And let me tell you, she's been a former school teacher with 17 years in the classroom. After watching countless students, parents, and teachers, she decided to resign, knowing that there was a better way to handle all those issues that she was seeing. And as she took those things that had to be changed, and she decided to create a business to solve those things, and that business is called SchoolSmart. So, as with any entrepreneur, she saw a problem in the classroom, and she decided she's going to do something about it. And she created a business that did just that. So, that is fabulous. All right. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring Allison Maynard to the stage right now. Hi, Allison. How you doing today?
Hi there. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So, you're all about the parents today. You're all about, you know, in what's the word? Is it enlightening? Enlightening parents today, and how you can empower parents. So, the stage is yours. Go ahead. I'm going to pass the baton over to you. The floor is yours. Please let us know how parents can be empowered.
Well, gosh, that's just such a loaded question. There's so many different things that you can do. I think it's important, and I think we're all aware of, so many of the issues that are happening in today's classrooms. And I think the situation with COVID just brought all of those issues to the forefront. And over the past few years, I've been trying to figure out, like, what can I do to take my skills and my talents and help parents, because I really think at this point in time, whether you like it or not, if you're a parent and you want your child to be successful, you have to get involved in the educating of your children now. There's no way around it. Our society is so used to, we send the kids off to school, they sit there, they do their thing with their teachers for several hours, they come home, they might have a little bit of homework, and it's done. And with all of the different issues that we're seeing in the classrooms, like that's just not realistic anymore. And parents really need to get involved in the process. And I'm finding that a lot of parents don't know how to do that. And so I came up with my methodology, and I'm doing the best that I can to create as much content to help empower parents so they can step into that role and not necessarily be a teacher, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm not a teacher. I don't know how to do this. It doesn't have to be difficult. It can be very simple. It just involves you getting more involved with your children. Simple way to start is by asking your kids questions every single day. Like, are you asking them how they're doing? How was your day? How was your class? How is this? Like, getting them involved in conversation first and foremost is a great way to start getting them to be actively thinking. Because what do a lot of kids do when they get home from school? They get on their phones, they get on their devices, they go play video games, they get on YouTube or whatever it is that they want to engage with. And they're doing that passively. They're not actively engaging their brains. And so by taking any opportunity that you have to start questioning your children at any point in time about whatever it is they're doing or engaging with, you're going to start to see a shift in how they interact with you. And the more that they're questioned and the more that they are being forced to kind of start thinking about things, the easier things are going to be for them in school. And I think that's a really big disconnect we've had for a really long time, is that we haven't really supported parents in helping them support the teachers at school, because we've got this disconnect that, school is school. I'm the parent. I'm over here doing this. And there's not a lot of interaction. We've got to get those two interacting. And so starting off by asking your kids questions is an easy, simple, you can go do that right now. You could walk away from this podcast and start asking your kids questions. And just that one thing, if you do that several times a day for the next few weeks or few months, you're going to start to see a shift in how your kids think and engage with the world. So we start there in terms of empowering parents. The next way that you will be empowered is by getting involved in your kids' homework. And I know that's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. Well, again, you start by asking lots of questions. First of all, what is your homework today? And if the kids say, I don't know, or I don't have any, and their grades you don't see good grades at school, then there's a disconnect there as well. So the school district that I used to work at, and I know this happens I used to work in a middle school. In some middle schools, I don't know what this looks like across the country, but my students were given a planner, and it was to write, it was a planning agenda, and it was meant for them to write things down, their homework, their assignments and whatnot. So if your school offers that, I would be checking the agenda every day. If not, I would go to a Staples or a Target, or, you can print templates up from online and have your kids actually writing down in class what they're doing each day and what the homework is. So you can start to fully understand what it is that they're doing in their classes and what's expected of them. You can also ask your kids, all right, so you're working on this project. Let me see the directions, because usually teachers do hand kids directions. I know a lot of schools are going online, so you can check online portals for that information as well. Another way to really get involved in the homework process, besides asking questions and making sure your kids are writing things down, get in contact with the teacher. I find that a lot of issues and situations can be resolved with a simple phone call or email. Email is actually easier, at least it was for me, because I could answer them whenever I had a chance, like in class, if I had a few minutes of downtime. I was happy to get emails from parents asking, like, how do I support my child in doing this? I didn't get them that often. So if you start getting more involved in the homework process with your children, especially if they're struggling in school, you're going to start to see they're going to start to improve, because there's more accountability there. Because I found as a teacher, a lot of my students, they didn't know how to do the things that I was asking them to do. I have a story that I was supposed to teach them. And I'd say, okay, you need to read these paragraphs and answer these questions. But if a child doesn't know how to read properly, and if a child doesn't know how to write properly, are they really going to be able to complete the task that I gave them? And the answer to that question is no. So supporting your kids and helping them being able to read and to write and to understand what's actually being asked of them. A lot of the behavior issues in my classroom I found were actually kids who were goofing off because they didn't know how to do what I was asking them to do. So simple things like helping your kids read, checking up on their homework, making it done, going over the homework to make sure the directions have been followed properly. All those are all ways that you can start immediately getting involved in the process that will help you understand more what's going on with your kids in their education, because the more you understand and the more you know, the better your kids are going to do. And that way, if there's issues, then you can pinpoint them right away instead of letting something go. And all of a sudden you're at the end of the quarter or the semester and your child has a really low grade. And then you pull it up and you go, oh, you didn't turn in all your homework. And then, you start digging and you start digging and you start digging. And then all of a sudden you understand, oh my goodness, you haven't been turning in your homework. Why haven't you been turning in your homework? Oh, well, you're struggling to read or you're struggling to write or whatever the issue is. So those are some really easy, concrete, simple ways to get involved immediately. Another one that I love to encourage that is not exactly mainstream, even though it's becoming more mainstream, is mindfulness and getting your kids in touch with their emotions. Now, I know that sounds really woo-woo, and people from my generation, older generations are like, no, we don't talk about our emotions. But mental health issues, especially in today's teens, they're skyrocketing. And some of the issues that were coming through my classroom, the ages that these kids were being diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar and so much depression, so much anxiety. And I resigned before distance learning. So things have gotten exponentially worse since then. So one thing that I encourage parents to do as well is to talk to your kids about how they're feeling and teaching your kids, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry, and to give them some tools, like some simple breathing exercises. So if they find themselves that they're angry or they're sad, that they have some tools to regulate themselves so that they can calm themselves down. Because I can tell you this much, if you have a child who's sad or anxious or angry, and then they're sitting in a classroom, do you really think that they're going to be able to learn and retain the information and perform at the level that's expected of them? And the answer to that question is no. They need to be given some tools in order to be able to do those things. So one thing that I used to do with my students is we would just breathe at the beginning of each class. I'd have them all sit quietly in their desks. They'd close their eyes, they'd put their feet on the ground, and I would just walk them through 5 to 10 deep cleansing breaths. And then we would get started. And what was interesting is the days that we did all of the breathing, the kids were much, much more engaged and attentive. The days that we didn't do the breathing, for example, because we had an assembly or there was a fire drill or, whatever distraction was going on, because schools are full of distractions, things were a lot more chaotic. Kids were, out of sorts, and they weren't as focused and attentive. So just really simple things like breathing. And there's all kinds of mindfulness stuff that you can find online nowadays because it's becoming more mainstream. There's tons of influencers on social media that share all kinds of information about mindfulness. So getting involved in mindfulness is definitely a way to empower you to help your children be more successful in school.
All that was beautiful. Thank you so much for giving us a lot to think about. So in my tutoring experiences, what comes up for me a lot, because you're saying for parents to be more involved in kids' education, like actually like make sure they're doing their homework, check their homework, make sure it's all turned in. So what do you say to the parents that say, well, before I even get there, some of the things that I've come across is that they may not understand the homework themselves. And especially, since the pandemic began, um, every, pretty much everything has been put online. And, with Google Classroom and Zoom and all that. Um, so how do you respond to those parents that they want to be involved but they don't understand the technology themselves, or they don't understand this new world order that we're in now? What do you say to those parents?
Um, they're going to have to learn it. And I know that's not the easy answer. And I think this is the thing. Everybody's looking for an easy answer to everything nowadays. And as much technology we have, like, I'll use me as an example. I'm a brand new entrepreneur, and I was school teacher for 17 years. And now I'm in this entrepreneur world, and all of these new things that I have to learn in order to be successful. Like, I don't want to do some of it. I don't, but I also understand that if I want to be successful and I want this to take off, like, I have to learn these different software programs, and I have to learn how to do this, this, and this. So if it's a real problem, go to the school and say, okay, I want to get involved. I don't know how to use Google Classroom. I need somebody here to show me. That's the school's job. You pay if you're in a public school, you pay taxes, and your taxes are in the schools to help support you. So if you're feeling like, okay, I don't understand Google Classroom, or I don't understand how to use the portal, or I don't know, but I want help, go to the school. And that's where you have to start becoming your own best advocate for yourself and for your child. Because, there are a lot of parents out there who don't know how to use these programs. And they're just assuming like, okay, everybody knows. Like, I'm sure you can go on YouTube and figure some of the stuff out, but YouTube is even overwhelming for some people. So if you really truly can't figure it out, go to the school and have them give you a demo, or set up a time with the teacher and have them give you a demo. Any good teacher, administrator, school that wants to see the kids be successful, if you come to them and ask for help, they're going to help you. And what might be interesting is if you come and ask for help, they may all of a sudden have 5 or 6 or 7 parents and go, oh, we may actually need to do a workshop on this for the entire student body, because we have so many parents who are saying they want to get involved, but they don't know how. So it's all about advocating for yourself, and communication is so important as well.
So now, what about the parents that say, like, they work all the time and they have full-time jobs, they're too tired, or they're too busy, or they're not, they're they don't really have the time to be that active. What do you say to them?
Find the time. It's your child. It's, you signed up to have a kid. However old they are, wherever you're at in that journey. And again, I know this is not the answer. Everybody's like, I just want to find something where I can put them down in front of the computer and they get all the information and it's good. That's not how we learn. Kids need interaction with learning. And so if they're struggling and you're busy, you're going to have to figure out some time to support them somehow. It doesn't have to be overwhelming where it's like, I need to sit down with them an hour a day. Checking their homework and going over it shouldn't take more than 10 or 15 minutes. If it's taking longer, then there's an issue, and then that's when you need to get in contact with the teacher or the school and go, okay, something's not jiving here. I need some assistance. But again, it's just, what are your priorities? I understand working and I understand getting food on the table. I do. I totally get that. But you also have kids that need to learn. And if you want them to be successful, sometimes they need extra support, and that falls on you as the parent to do that. So again, I know it's not the answer you want. Everybody wants a super easy answer. But again, you can learn ways that are really quick and easy. The questioning thing is, again, I'm going to go back to that, because I think that's the basis for so much of learning, is knowing how to answer questions and how to ask the right ones. So if you just start asking your kids questions, like that takes no time at all. Like, how was your day today? Or what did you learn in science? Or, it's raining outside. How does the rain make you feel? Like questioning whatever they're engaging with. Like that doesn't take a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, just carving out time whenever you can. My advice when they're in school, if you can't do it every day, pick a day of the week. All right, today's Wednesday. We're going to spend a half an hour. We're going to check, how are you doing with your homework this week? What do you have assigned for tomorrow? Do you have any projects coming up? Because teachers, usually big projects, those aren't due the next day. Those are usually due, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out. So then you can monitor that without sacrificing so much of your own time. And then there's also weekends. Like I know everybody wants to be off on weekends and wants to be relaxing. And again, you don't have to spend the whole weekend on homework. But if you say, all right, you know what, I'm off work on Sunday. I've got, a window from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Okay, 11 to 12 is going to be school time where we review what happened last week and we prep for next week. And it's a way to connect. You can go on the portal, you can check grades, you can have conversations. Just getting involved in the process, your kids are going to want to do better because now all of a sudden, like they know you're on their team. They don't understand that. Like it's a weird concept, but a lot of parents don't necessarily understand. The kids they want you there. They want to know that they're supported. They want to know that you're there to help them. So if you're always just, all right, they're doing their homework, they're fine. All right, we're checking their grades, they're fine. And you're not getting involved, the kids are going to know that. But the more you start to show up, I can almost guarantee that the more the kids are going to start to show up too, the more engaged they're going to be, the better they're going to do because they want to please their parents. So it's a whole cycle. So just by getting involved, most of your kids are going to start being like, oh, okay, I want to do better because now somebody's checking on me. Now there's accountability. And again, it doesn't have to be hard or take a lot of time.
That's definitely great advice. And I think you bring up a harsh reality. I love that you don't sugarcoat things. You bring up a harsh reality in
No.
that you chose to have a kid. Well, you need to be a parent. You chose to be a parent, so now you have
I
to be
know.
one. And that's the harsh reality of parenthood is that you actually have to invest in your child. You have to invest in your time. You have to invest in money. Like you have to grow this thing that you have that's a child. So it's um you definitely need to be involved and even with tutoring, it's you could tell, I could tell the parents, the ones that are involved and the ones that are not so involved, and it's like, well, so
Well,
you could tell the difference.
yeah,
Um,
and I mean
in different.
the adage it takes a village to raise a child is so true. I mean, if you're in a home, the traditional home where, someone's going off to work and someone's able to stay home, like that's amazing because someone's able to focus in on the kids. But if, both parents are working, you know, hopefully you have relatives that can step in and help out with this as well. And I know that's not the case in a lot of situations either. So, the more support you can get, if you are busy and overwhelmed, like who can you call? Who can you bring onto your team to help you with these things? Like, okay, maybe you're not good in school, but maybe you have a cousin or an aunt who teaches math, or who's an accountant for business. Well, maybe they can come in and offer some support once a month to, I don't know, you got to get creative. Like, who's on your team? Who can you call in to help support? There are always answers to questions. Nothing is ever so despondent, especially when we're talking about helping our kids be more successful. Like there's tools, there's people, like you can find things to help.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So now going back to the questioning part, I will say when it comes to questioning kids, because I do it with my niece and nephew. I'm like, how's school? And what did you learn in school today? And they'll respond, tests, whatever. Like they'll give me 1 and 2 word answers. And it's like, yeah, I'm questioning them. I want to know how was their day, what did they learn, but they'll give me like 1 to 2 word answers. So it's not a full conversation, and it's like I have to pick at it, and I'll admit, that when I hear the 1 and 2 word answers, at some point I just give up, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just going to move. I'm not going to push any further, and I know that's not good. so, um, so sometimes when it comes to talking to kids, they don't give you the response that you want. They don't give you the feedback that you're looking for. You want to have those long conversations where you're picking at it, and they just give 1 to 2 word answers like, okay, yeah, it's fine. We did a test and that was it. And so it's they don't talk a lot. So what's your response to that? What do you do with that?
Well, the first thing is you keep trying, obviously, but you model the behavior. So you say, okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and I expect a complete sentence like this. I'm going to ask you, and you give them the question. So let's just say, for example, like, how was your day today? You may not answer me like this: fine, good, bad. You may answer me like, today my day was good because, and you're going to fill in the sentence. So you're modeling what you want from them, and you're giving them a sentence frame that they fill in the blank. You hold them accountable to answering that whole sentence. And then you see because usually then you can take it somewhere. Like, I had a bad day at school because we had a fire drill and we were out in the sun for a really long time. And then you can start asking questions like, oh, well, what did you do when you were out in the sun for a long time? And then hopefully you can start engaging in discussion. But by establishing some expectations and giving a sentence frame that they finish, now they're more on the hook.
Hmm. So you're saying so when they start with the one and like how was school today? It was okay. You're saying to be strict with it. So you're saying like that's not an acceptable answer.
Yeah,
I want a better.
tell them it's okay. No, and tell them beforehand, like, I will not accept an answer like okay or good or fine. And that's why adding the because onto anything is so important, because that's where they're starting to explain how they're thinking. So, how was school today? Bad. Okay, why was it bad? Okay, well, that's not an answer. You need to give me an answer, and holding them on the hook. Now, it might be difficult at first, because if they've gotten used to doing 1 or 2 word answers for, the whole time they've been in school, it's going to be messy and it's going to be uncomfortable at first. And you may have to let them off the hook every once in a while. You may have to give them some better examples. Like, before you even ask them the question, go, you know, today I had a great day because I did a podcast interview with this amazing teacher, and she gave my people so much great information. How was your day? So now you're also modeling it so they know what the expectation is. Because let's be honest, most people are going to get off the hook. They don't want to do the work. What's the least amount for the best possible outcome? So if you hold them to high expectations, over time, then they're going to start to shift. But again, it might look ugly at first because they're not used to doing it.
That's a fair point, and it's like, and even I fall behind on that. It's I I initiate the conversation. I say, um, how was like even yesterday I had an interaction with my nephew. I'm like, how was school today? It was okay, and I was like, I mean, I tend to I'm used to the 1 to 2 word answers. So that particular time, I was like, well, what was okay about it? Oh, well, we did some tests and like, oh, what was it hard? Was it easy? Like I kept trying to probe at it and get more out of him, but it's again at some point I was like, okay, I'm just gonna give up. and it's is there? I'm trying to put the words together. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. So I know I gave up that conversation, but are you saying to like to keep at it, to not give up, or
Consistency is key.
yeah,
Learning any skill, you got to be consistent. You've got to do it. Like I always used to use the example of the quarterback in the Super Bowl. They didn't just like wake up and decide to go to the Super Bowl and win it. Like it took so much time and effort and practice. And, they messed up so many times, but they got up and they kept going. And so, when you're learning any skill, as simple as asking questions to your kids and figuring out how to get them to answer it, it's going to take time and it's going to take consistency. Like if you have that conversation with your nephew yesterday and you're like, man, that was an awful conversation, I don't think I'm going to do it for another week. I mean, and let's be honest, how old's your niece and nephew?
my nephew's 11 and my niece is 9.
So they're in that age where they're also beginning to like privacy. Like they don't want to share, like they want to keep some secrets and so you're going to have to start navigating that. And another thing that you can do is give them the question in the morning before they go to school, if you can, or the night before and be like, okay, so tomorrow I'm going to ask you one funny thing that happens in class today. Or tell me one thing that your English teacher shared and what you thought about that. So if you give them that question, and it could be any question, like you don't have to don't overthink the question either. Because I know what a lot of parents are probably thinking right now, like, oh my gosh, I got to come up with this list of questions. No, we got to keep things simple. We've really got to bring things back to basics. And we've overcomplicated things with Common Core and No Child Left Behind and all of this testing and all of the things. Like, we got to get it back to basics. And so questioning is as basic as it can get. So if you give the kids the question before they go to school, then they know what's expected of them and they don't have to think on the spot. And then there's that accountability piece later on in the evening or whenever you engage with them again. So that's another way that you can try to guarantee a better response, because now they know the question that's going to be asked of them. Students in my classroom, they hated it when you would ask a blind question, like, okay, so whatever the question is, and you look around, no one would answer, because you need to give kids time to think. Sometimes I would give the kids questions, a few days before, and I would say, all right, on Friday, we're going to be having a conversation about this. Here are some questions that I'm going to be asking. You might want to answer these in advance. And then, that way they had time to think about it. And then they'd be like, oh, I would get a lot more involvement there. So even just prepping the kids with a question beforehand, I think is a really simple way to try to better engage your kids in conversation. And then you can also always, if they're on a device, look over their shoulder and ask them what they're watching. What are you watching? Who is it for? How does it make you feel? Like, is there music involved? You can just start asking questions about what they're visually watching, and then hopefully they can start answering them. Because again, now you're turning a passive activity, which is just mindlessly watching a phone or playing a video game, and you're turning it into an active opportunity for learning. But again, these are skills that take some time to refine. It's not going to happen overnight, and that's okay. It's better to start now than never. And you're looking for progress, not perfection, which I think are two really, really important things, because we put so much pressure on. You got to get A's all the time. You have to be a perfect student. You got to go to college. You got to get the job. Like, no, let's keep it simple. And let's let kids feel like it's okay to make mistakes too. I do think that's another issue that we see today, is that there's so much pressure on kids to be perfect, that they're so afraid of making mistakes that sometimes they just shut down and they won't answer questions or do the work because it's too overwhelming for them. So hopefully these are some suggestions that'll help with that.
Wow, that's definitely very, very helpful. So So now my thing with that is kind of staying on the questioning part. Um, Another common response I get is I don't know. So when talking to my students, I'll say like, how was your day today, or what did you do, or I don't know, I don't know. So then I try to, and I guess with my counseling background, I try to like, okay, well, so what did what happened in this class, or what happened here? Did something happen? Like, I will ask specific questions that give me specific answers, but that's just my style, and I can't say that for all parents. So now, what do you say when the kid is like, I don't know, I don't know? So they may not know how to respond to a question that you're asking.
I
So they
mean,
may not be able to verbal like, how was your day? I don't know. What did you do today? I don't know. Like, they may not actually be able to verbalize their emotions. They may not be able to verbalize
exactly.
their activity throughout the day. So it is an actual thing, putting actions to words and feelings to words. And I mean, now that I'm thinking out loud, like, well, that comes with practice and conversation. Um, but in general, so when you have the I don't know, and then you get the shrug, I don't know, I don't know. So what do you do? What do you say to that? What do you do with the I don't knows?
That's a good question because I used to get that all the time in my classroom. Like, ooh, not they don't even say the words. It's like a sound. It's like, ooh. Like they're so lazy they can't even get the words out of their mouth. I think you hit it on the nose though. I think sometimes it's because kids don't know how to articulate that. They've
Mm,
never been shown how to do it. So you've got to start showing them how to do it. And that it all comes with prepping them with the question. I would start with the prepping and the question in the morning and just keep it super simple and be like, okay, I'm going to be asking you this tonight. And then if you're still getting the I don't knows, then there's probably something else going on, maybe a processing issue. Give them a post-it note and be like, okay, here's the question. Write your answer down on the post-it note, jot some notes down, and we're going to have a 2-minute conversation about this tonight. So now you've prepped them with the question and you've given them a post-it note that they can keep in their planner or their textbook or wherever, or they can do it on their phone. I know all these kids are going to school with their devices and they all know how to text and answer questions to their friends. So they can answer questions like, how are you doing today? How was your English class? It's not because they don't know how, even though for some kids it is. It's because they don't want to do it. And they don't want to do it. And they use I don't know as a way to get out of it because a lot of people don't hold them accountable for that. Because after that, they're like, okay, well, they don't know. And this feels like it's going to be difficult. And I've had a long day and I'm tired and I don't want to deal with it. So we're done. I did that as a teacher quite often. Like if I was having a day and the kids were like, I don't know, I'm like, all right, fine, here's the answer. Let's move on because we've got to move through material. So it's not the easy answer. And I think that's the big thing, the big takeaway from today. Nothing worth having is going to be easy. It's hard
mhm,
work. Being a parent is hard work. Raising kids, working with kids is hard work because we've got to teach them as adults. Our job with kids in our lives is to teach and support them so they become the adults that teach and support the kids of future generations.
mhm.
And I'm seeing a really big disconnect with a lot of that now. And so we've got to get parents more involved in the process. We've got to give them some simple tools and techniques like asking questions and holding the kids accountable. And if you keep getting the I don't know, have them, give them an answer and be like, okay, today my day was great because blah, blah, blah. And then have them just repeat after you. Start there. If they keep giving you I don't know, because eventually they're going to be like, I don't want to do this. And then maybe they'll start to answer the question. You gotta outsmart them. You just gotta outsmart them, which should be pretty easy because they're kids, but they're also intimidating. Kids are very intimidating too.
So
But
now, just
it's okay. It's okay. Wherever you're at, you're doing great. Like I think that's another thing that parents need to give themselves credit. Being a parent today is hard. It is so hard. Like I think COVID just made everything so much more difficult. or it made us more aware of the difficulty. So if you're parenting and you're doing your best to get involved and you don't know what to do, take a moment and give yourself some credit and pat yourself on the back and be like, I'm trying. Because that's half the battle, to be honest with you, is parents.
Yeah.
I had so many parents who weren't even involved. They didn't even care. So if you're really stressed out and, oh my gosh, they're not answering the questions and I'm doing all this, like, you're doing something. So give yourself credit for that. And know if you keep trying and you keep practicing over time, things will start to shift. But this is not something that's most likely is not going to happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and consistency, which are words we're not used to because everything nowadays is go, 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 now, instant gratification.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, it is a lot of work, so it's, it's not, I mean, it's more than, I mean, definitely make sure they actually do the homework. And that's another thing. And with going back to checking to make sure they do their homework, do you actually like, okay, show me your notebooks? Like, how crazy do you get? Because, some parents they'll ask, they'll ask their kid, like, did you do the homework? Yeah, okay. And that's it. Or do you actually get, like, I guess, crazy about it and say, okay, give me your notebooks, give me your textbooks, let me see what you did. So how involved should parents be in terms of uh, holding kids accountable for the work that they do in school?
I think it depends on where the child is at. If you have a child that's a straight A student that's bringing in A's all the time, you don't ever get parent phone calls, the grades are good. If the kid says they're done with the homework, I think you're good there. If you have a child on the other end of the spectrum, there's, low C's and D's in class. They say they're getting the homework done, but these grades are low. That's when it's time to start, intervening and checking in on them. So I think it just depends on where your kids are at. Like, you're starting to get a lot of phone calls from teachers. That's probably a good time. And I see nothing wrong with you checking randomly once or twice a week. You don't even have to do it every day. Because again, I get that the time issue is an issue for a lot of parents. Randomly, and let your kids know, okay, you're in 7th grade now. Okay. Things are getting serious. So once or twice a week, and I'm not going to tell you when, I'm going to ask to see your homework and what you're supposed to be doing. And we're going to spend a few minutes talking about it. So those random checks for some kids are going to help kind of get them like, okay, again, it's accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So I think going back to your original question, it all depends on where your child is at in the process. But if you have a child with all F's who says he's doing his homework, he's not doing his homework, and he's going to need some structure and intervention. Those were the students that the parents would actually ask me to initial their notebooks to say like that they were actually writing down what they were supposed to be doing. And I would do that for a while, but I expected the parent to sign it in return. And when the parent stopped signing it, I stopped signing it too, because, I don't have time to be running around after all of these kids. It's the kids' responsibility. And if the parents are checking and the kids are asking, like, I am fully engaged in that process. So again, a lot of this is going to fall back on the parents. But again, once you get used to it, you can make it part of your routine. You should have some sort of routine in place when it comes to homework and studying anyways. Your kids should be reading an actual book a few minutes a day. I used to have my kids do a half an hour a day. I'm happy if they would do 5 to 10 minutes now, but they need to be reading an actual book. They need to be doing some writing every day. Progress, not perfection. Kids are going to improve if they're doing things consistently every day. If they're just on their phones all the time, they're not improving their reading skills, even if they're reading. I believe that the last time I checked, we read slower on electronic devices by like 25%. It
Really?
slows us down. Plus the blue light, there's something with that blue light when I'm reading and studying, like I need to actually have things physically written down. I learn better that way. And I think a lot of when you're learning new skills, I think that's a much better way to learn new information than just reading it. Because again, when
Yeah.
you're writing things down, oh my gosh, look at your writing. There's physical connection between what you're writing in your hand that goes into your brain. When I'm typing or I'm scrolling, I'm not getting that same physical connection with the neurons and the remembering. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it's, I guess it is the downside to the computer age that we're in now.
mhm.
It's that we're actually losing the ability to write letters on paper. And I read somewhere about kids don't know how to hold the pen properly anymore or something like that. So that's kind of the downside to the computer age, is that we lose those basic skills, those basic writing skills. So now, I know we're having this is a great discussion, but we got to start to bring things down. So now, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our parents or with our audience today? Any final words of wisdom?
I think I've said a lot of the things that I've said, I stand behind, but I think the most important thing is if you're not involved, get involved. It doesn't have to look perfect. Just trying to get your kids to learn and engage with you, that's half the battle. And
Hmm.
I think we don't give questioning enough credit, because if you start questioning your kids on the regular about everything over time, they're going to start doing that as well. And that's when true learning happens. And because of the way schools are set up with pacing guides and testing and standards, there's not a lot of time to really allow kids to learn, to truly master these skills, because we're moving so quickly through things. So, don't discredit the power of a good question.
Awesome. And I just have this one last question. I want to make sure we get this in. I feel like there's some parents, they may not be as involved because they don't value education. Um, they actually don't see schooling and education as a vital part of life. So they if their child gets a C or or B minus, or if they might be okay with their child getting 70 and 75s, and they're just like, okay, whatever, as long as you're passing, let's just get past the school thing, and let's just put this in the rear view. And that's some of my experience that I've seen in my tutoring, is that a lot of parents, they're not as involved. There's a variety of reasons why they're not involved, but one common thing that I see is that they actually don't see school as important. They actually don't see education as important. It's just they see it as a crux. They see it as like it's crippling them, or it's a waste of time. So and that'll be my final question here. So what is your response to that?
There's a lot of debate about where the education system is at, and it's an old, it's based off farming society. We haven't updated the topics. um, Whatever you're at in that debate, your kids still have to be able to read, they still
Hmm.
have to be able to write, they have to be able to communicate, they have to be able to come up with some way to sustain their life in the future, unless you're planning on supporting them for their entire lives. But I know most parents don't have the means or want to do that. So um, whether you think school is the right place or not, your kids still have to learn the basics. And the better they are at reading and writing and communicating, the more successful, the better the chances that they're going to be successful down the road. Because most jobs require you to be able to read, to write, and to communicate. Even influencers, because I know influencers are a really big thing right now. Every kid wants to be an influencer. Okay, fine. do you know how much work goes into that? Like, it's not just getting free stuff sent to you and you try it on for the video. Like, you've got to write content. You've got to reach out to sponsors. You've got to communicate information if somebody's not sending you the right stuff. So school, or however that looks to you, it's still a place to develop basic skills that are going to help you down the road. So you still got to be able to read and ask questions and communicate. So to those parents, like, if you want your kids to be successful, they've still got to learn the basics.
Hi, can you see me?
I can hear you. Okay, there you are.
There I am. Whoa, my internet just went out. Whoa, sorry about that. Okay, I think you messaged me. Okay.
I did. I was just because
Sorry.
I know there's, like, with all the crazy weather with, Hurricane Ian and everything, I know things have been really dicey in a lot of places. So
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we're good. Okay. Whew. All right. All right, so promo time. All right, we're here. It's time for promo. All right, you guys. So Allison Maynard, you can, she's easy to find. She just has a website and an Instagram. So if you want to learn more about her, you want to learn more about her services, you want to reach out to her, communicate with her, all that, you could find her online. Her website is www.schoolsmart101.com. And she is also on Instagram. Follow her on Instagram. The account is just SchoolSmart101. So that information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen if you happen to be watching this on video. But if you're listening to this on audio, don't worry. This information is in the description. So however you are taking in this episode right now, this information is at your fingertips. So again, her website is www.schoolsmart101.com. And she's also on Instagram, SchoolSmart 101. So definitely follow her and stay in touch with her. Allison, can you tell us about your business?
Yeah, so I have a couple different offerings. The first one is an online course that I developed specifically for parents based on my methodology of teaching. And it's all about giving parents the right tools to help their kids get better grades in school. So it's based on 4 pillars of learning: study skills and organization, critical thinking and reading, writing, and mindfulness and emotional well-being. My belief is that when a child has a basic understanding of how to do those 4 things, they can be successful in any learning environment, whether it's homeschool, unschool, classroom, whatever, because they have the tools to do what's being asked of them by whoever the instructor is. So I'm giving the parents those tools to be able to teach their kids that. I'm also a child education coaching expert. So I work one-on-one with parents who need a little bit more support. I take them through the online course over an 8-week period of time. And we meet once a week for an hour to discuss, what went well, what didn't work, and what can we do to help you better engage your children in their learning environment. And I'm actually I just opened up 3 spots for the month of October. So if any of your guests are interested, please definitely reach out to me. I am currently in the midst of a rebrand. So the best place to get a hold of me right now is on the Instagram page, SchoolSmart101.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much for that information. So I encourage you guys to take advantage of everything that she just said. So I'm just going to repeat that information one more time. So her website is www.schoolsmart SchoolSmart 101. I keep saying 101. I always do that. 101.com. And she is also on Instagram. Her account is SchoolSmart101. So I encourage you guys to follow her on Instagram, go to her website, learn everything about SchoolSmart 101 and Allison Maynard. All right, Allison, thank you so much for bearing with me today with all this techie stuff, but and especially thank you for all of your insight that you've shared with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to our next conversation.
Of course, of course. All right, I'm gonna place you backstage now. All right, you guys, it is now you and me. So let's get to it. All right, you guys, we have, excuse me, we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. So please check out our other episodes, whatever platform that you're taking this in right now, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, or you're listening on audio, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Spreaker or whatever it is. Check out our other episodes, you guys. Check them out and don't forget to follow and subscribe. While you're at it, please let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section. Woo, I got to clear my throat. A lot of talking today. Let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section or in the comment thread, or leave us a rating. Let us know what you thought about this episode. We definitely will appreciate your feedback. And as a reminder, this podcast is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about our company, our tutoring services, what we're all about, maybe you're looking for a tutor for your child or even for yourself. And as this topic is about empowering parents, maybe one of those things is, I need to get my child a tutor because my child needs the help. Well, look no further than A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you are in need of tutoring services, please reach out to us. Our website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You could also find us across multiple social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Eventbrite, YouTube. There's another one I can't think of right now, but we are across multiple social media platforms. So please reach out to us for tutoring services. And one last thing I want to share before we close, we have a hot topics text list. That's right. So our podcast has its own text list. And I encourage you guys to get on and stay in touch with anything and everything that is Hot Topics. All you have to do is text the code Hot Topics to 917-764-3975. Again, text the code Hot Topics to 917-764-3975 and get on our text list today. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching this episode or listening to this episode. I look forward to seeing you guys at the next episode. All right, thank you guys again, and I'm now signing off. Bye.